Join us for episode 5. We're halfway through this season of The Alienist, and we got some clues going for you.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, 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 Alienist fans. I am 123 Jackie B, and with me is the rest of the panel as usual. Let's start with Candi.
Yes. Hey guys, what's going on? Back for another week. This is Miss Candi Marie, and you can find me on Instagram at Miss Candi Marie and on Twitter at Sweet Candor TV.
Hey guys, I'm Allison Ford. You can find me on Twitter at Alice L. Ford or on Instagram at Alice's Adventures on Earth. And there's so many cool things that happen in this episode. I can't wait to dig in.
Oh, so much. And I am Takira Williams. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Takira_Williams.
You guys, we have some cool things coming up for you. We have another guest coming up in 2 weeks, so stay tuned for that. And we also have a contest going on right now. We'll announce the winner next week, but we're all going to post the links to the contest because you have to follow each one of us and AFTERBUZZ on social media, and you have to make a comment on either iTunes or one of our shows. As long as you make a comment on any one of the YouTube videos, you're set, or on our iTunes page. And it has to be for the Alienist iTunes page, not just general AFTERBUZZ, because there are so many comments in that I won't be able to find it.
Right. So please show us some love.
Yes. Yeah, and the link is in, I know it's in episode 4's YouTube description as well. I don't know if we've put it in this one or not yet, but it's super easy. I know I saw that like 25 people looked at it last week, but nobody actually filled it out. So make sure you fill it out so that we can enter you in to win.
Yes, we'll tweet it out after this episode, so you guys can have that link as well. So let's go right into our clues. I felt like we got a lot of clues in this episode. We know we start off with a handwriting analysis, which I was super geeking out about because I think that where you have this time period where it's at the edge of technology, you have these new things that are available to you, and I feel like maybe I'm not a police officer, so I don't know if handwriting analysis is still used, but to me it like makes sense. It's the guy is writing letters, he's taunting them, so it would make sense to one, see if maybe in your files you have any handwriting that matches that, because handwriting to me is almost like a fingerprint. It's something very unique to that person. And then B, to see what like certain things mean in your handwriting.
Well, and the handwriting analysis is really cool. Like I know I've been to parties sometimes and they have like a handwriting analysis person.
Oh,
sometimes.
that's cool.
It's always really neat to like have your handwriting analyzed by someone that studies it, because they're able to actually reveal like certain things about yourself, which always kind of surprises me that you can tell that much.
Do you remember anything from those parties? Because I mean I just know what people look for, but I don't remember why they look for it. Like some people, write in all caps, and some people write slanted, and some people write really big.
I wish I did, but it's a
Or
good
what
thing
did they say about you?
to look up. I honestly can't remember.
That's really cool.
I obviously had too many cocktails.
Well, we are not handwriting analysts right here. So we know that the killer from the handwriting analysis is between the 24 and 35 age range, which I thought that was so interesting that they were able to pinpoint like what penmanship was taught in certain schools to be able to get that age range.
Right.
That's really cool.
He has terrible spelling, which is something I noticed when they read the letter out loud. I was like, what is this? But they thought it could be a misdirection because his penmanship is really good. So that's a weird thing. And I also thought that maybe he has terrible spelling because English was not his first language, because it could be that you were taught in a really good school, but if English was your second language, your penmanship might be beautiful, but you might not understand how to spell certain words.
Right.
And that's very interesting because he doesn't strike me as somebody that's careless.
Yeah.
He hasn't struck me as a careless individual like all season. So is it that he doesn't care what the person that thinks that he's sending the letter to? I don't know.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I kind of went on a mental illness path on that one.
Ooh.
Like autism, or like something that we don't really know yet, like something that has maybe dyslexia.
Yeah. Dyslexia. Yeah.
Dyslexia. Like something that is, especially with like the doctor involved, like is this a past patient? Like some type of connection there. So that's kind of the path that I took. Like maybe he's working so hard to keep it together, and it's just something that he deals with.
If it really is William Van Bergen, if he really is the killer, like I think we saw in that kind of last scene that he obviously has some very childlike reactions to his mother, and so like maybe he does have some sort of development issue or a mental illness, something like that.
And that's such a great point, because the way she handles him with my sweet Willem.
Well, I think there's more. Yeah,
You
we were
know,
talking
like-
about this earlier. and
Yeah,
I definitely
we were.
think.
Well,
maybe
let's move on to our
anyways.
hashtag it means something, because for me that was the fact that Chrysler freaks out when they mentioned that it could have been that the killer had an overbearing mother, which caused him to create these crimes. And then Chrysler freaks out, and we don't know, perhaps, to me, I thought, okay, hashtag it means something, because maybe Chrysler had a mom who was really good to him, and maybe he had a single mom, and she was the person who made him into the man he is today, and it made him feel very protective of that.
I just want to point out that Joshua from the live chat said his mom is gross. She tried to make out with him.
That was a little strange. Yeah.
So as we go around here, it means something was actually related to that same scene, and just like my thought was that she probably was molesting him from a very young age, and that she goes to kiss him on the lips and he freaks out. So there's obviously something very deep rooted there with his anger for her.
Do you think that's why he sends the letters to the moms?
I think, I think it's all interconnected.
He tries to make them, like, even the things that he said, it just seemed kind of petty, to me. Like, he was trying to inflict pain. He was trying to, the wording that he used. It seemed like he even added on more to the story. Like, I eat their ass. Like,
more detail.
Yeah, we know nothing
Like, he
about
wanted the
that
mother
happening.
to show some type of pain. I definitely don't want to, like, backpedal off of, like, Dr. Chrysler getting so upset, because I think that was such a big part of this scene. And to, like, the notes that I put were, he distinctly mentioned that if the mother had not been around, or had the mother been more dominant, then none of this would have happened. I think he said we wouldn't be here. So to me, he, had the mother been more dominant in his life, we wouldn't be here. So to me, that's kind of a cry that the mom wasn't there. What didn't uphold her end of the bargain, and in his relationship with the father? He's clearly hurt. Something happened in his childhood, and I definitely don't want to give any like spoiler alerts, but I did a little research on like Chrysler, and actually if our readers don't know yet, but Caleb Carr had another book called An Angel of Darkness, and it actually like elaborates more on Dr. Chrysler's character, which we were talking about earlier, and it definitely gives story to his arm. Right. It definitely gives story to the relationship with his parents, and that scene right there, him getting so upset, showed to a T. I don't want to give any spoilers,
because it might be season 2.
Right. Yes, exactly. We would love for it to be season 2.
Exactly. But yeah, that's a good point.
Did anyone else have a hashtag it means something for this episode?
Yeah. I had I know you had the mother getting so upset. My note there was just how angry he got. Like he's kind of fed up with getting, but my hashtag it means something was Jesse, the prisoner that they went to go see in Boston.
Sorry, I just have to interject. I just love that the actor does this like straight up very good Boston accent. So props to that actor for doing that, because I was like, we know where we are right now.
Right, exactly. Gotta have him on the show. But he mentioned. Kept referencing the arm, like kept antagonizing him about, well, why don't you do it? And Chrysler was so, when he put the knife up to his face, I honestly thought that Chrysler was going to grab it and like stab the guy and go loco. I don't know if I was the only
Really?
one. I did. I was like, oh, he's like getting angry. He's like right there. I saw it. I was like, come on, grab the knife.
You felt Chrysler was getting angry.
I felt he was definitely getting angry. He was getting kind of like pushed to that breaking point,
Yeah,
like we talked
that.
last time, because he said, everyone has their breaking point. And I don't know, the guy brought up his arm, so I don't know if they like grew up together, like he knew about the arm in some kind of way. I don't know.
My question is, where did he get that knife? Like,
Well, I mean, he's psychotic.
I'm like, does Chrysler carry the knife? Because Chrysler was standing pretty close to him. I was like, is Chrysler carrying a knife and he ripped it off of him?
No,
like,
I think he
otherwise,
probably
you're
made
like,
a shank
how
out
does
of
this
it.
His
person...
psychos are geniuses too. Like they're so creative.
Right.
They come up with the easiest things to create weapons out
Yeah,
of.
he's been in there for 22 years. He's probably been filing down a fork. For the
Right,
last 10.
right. You know what? It's interesting that you saw fear. For me, I saw a bit of a it was like a thrill for him. Like for me, it was like, I don't know. It was like I feel like it's an addiction. Like every time that he's able to get inside
Chrysler?
the mind. For Chrysler,
okay.
for Dr. Chrysler, it's like an addiction every time he's able to get inside somebody's mind. And he thought he was getting somewhere with the guy. And then all of a sudden he just explodes. And then it was so intense. That moment was so intense. And I was paying attention to his eyes. Like, it was like, to me, I felt like his eyes was following the blade. Like, it was just like it was like an addiction. Everything that he was going through was an addiction, and he thrived off of that.
Like he almost wanted him to like some kind of strike some type of blood or something. It was really,
It was interesting.
yeah, very much so.
That scene got to me, and I'm actually... we have an outline for this show, but I'm going to jump ahead just because we're on the point of Jesse Pomeroy.
Yeah.
We have Jesse tell this sob story about how like his dad left and his mom never kissed him, and then we have Chrysler posit that Jesse was killing people by maiming their faces because he was jealous that he did not have like two good
Perfect eyes.
perfect eyes, two good eyes. And so Jesse then turns around and basically like shuts down Chrysler's theory by saying like, well, you have a withered arm and you're not going around cutting off people's arms. And I feel like this show constantly brings up like, what does it take to be a killer? Like, what is it that makes someone like, what is it that makes Jesse Pomeroy a killer, but not Chrysler?
Right.
And we
what's
know
your
that
breaking point?
Yeah, what's your breaking point? And we know that Chrysler has some like psychological problems that he works out through himself, and he deals with a lot of troubled people, which I would assume take a psychological toll on you. And for Chrysler, it seems like he's saying, okay, well, I had a good mom, and this is why I don't do this. So what is it that makes people do what they do?
I think the conversation that Chrysler had with his instructor was just so instrumental in this episode, and just like go back to the basics. I thought that was really, really cool, and I think it kind of reset him just a little bit. I think sometimes we're so surface and we're looking at everything else, but we need to really like take a second and just look below the surface, look at what's really, really going on. I thought that was a very instrumental part of this episode.
Well, yeah, and I think this
We
is
saw
the
a
first
vulnerability. It was a vulnerability we
Yeah,
saw.
that he actually was like, oh, wait, I don't. And he even said, like, I don't know as much as I thought I did.
Right.
Which he said that phrase has come up 3 times. I kind of lost count, but at least 3 times in this whole series. He said it like in episode 2 or something, and then twice in this twice in this episode when he was on the train, when he said Jesse made him realize that I don't know it all.
Right.
There's something, hashtag it means something. I don't know. Maybe that's another one, but there's something to have to do with that for sure.
I feel like it's important to know your own limitations. Like if you're going to be doing a complex investigation, it's important to know like, okay, I'm stuck in my own head. I have to do this thing to get out of that rut.
Yeah. Or you got out of your head for the most part. Because, I mean, if you think, like, Dr. Chrysler has been really angry with the people around him. He has been, his anger issue, like, we've seen him explode a couple of times. And I think that visit to his old professor was kind of a moment like, okay, I'm losing myself. I need to bring it on back.
Back
What do
to
I
the
need to
basics.
do? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, and nowadays, like if you're a psychiatrist or psychologist, like you're actually required to have your own psychologist.
That's a good point.
So that you can actually deal with all of the like terrible things that you hear from your patients. And obviously back in those days, that kind of recourse was not
Right.
there. So you were kind of being driven mad probably a little
That's
bit
a really
by
good
all
point.
the people that you were dealing with yourself.
There's also, it means something. We talked about John. Did we discuss his brother drowning? So
yet.
that like giving that image a face and seeing that moment, I think was very wow. That was very intense.
Yeah.
Again, the word intense is like that's what
A lot.
I felt this whole entire episode. So it was like, okay, wow, now we know who this guy is in a sense. They still haven't. Have they said it yet that this is his brother? They haven't made it really known yet. But
Well, I
that
think
gave
in
us some insight
the
into
other
his
episode
character.
a little bit.
Dr. Chrysler only mentioned when your brother had drowned, when he was kind of provoking John to, you know, that moment when they were in the office and he was kind of provoking them to kind of look within themselves. But what about it changing to the little boy?
Well, yeah, that's what I was just going to say because
That
I
was
think
interesting.
that other episode we saw Sarah see herself as like a younger version. And then in this one, John sees his brother drowning, but as a younger boy, but we know that he drowned as an adult.
Right.
I
so
think-
that, I don't know what the...
Yeah, I don't know what it is as far as like Sarah, and maybe it could be the same thing. But what I felt in that scene was John clearly carries guilt over not being able to save his brother, and maybe that guilt carries into like all these children are being murdered, and I can't save the children either.
Yeah. Or
Right.
just, I think, upbringing in general. You bring up Sarah's younger, John's younger. Dr. Chrysler, we know something happened to him when he was younger to affect him so much, and then we have children. So that is such a good point.
You know what? I also feel like everybody's searching for their value, if not in themselves, but in this case, what value can I bring to this case? Definitely value.
Yeah. It's a
I
good
agree
point.
with that. So, Alice, you said you wanted to talk about the love triangle. We do have that.
Oh, yes.
So we have, not only do we have a very weird and not sincere proposal happen between Sarah and John, but then we have that scene with Sarah and Chrysler where Sarah's like, I just want to give you some information. And he's like, no, sit down. I'm going to try and ply you with wine. And she's like, I drink whiskey. And
Well, yeah, and the interesting
girl.
thing is that with both of the guys, like, so obviously in the first scene with Moore, she's basically like, you're lazy and you drink too much. So then in the next scene, we see him being like, I'm not drinking anymore. I'm
Yes.
giving up alcohol. And then she convinces Chrysler to drink whiskey, and he's like, ugh, this is terrible. And then in the next scene, we see him drinking whiskey at home, like trying to get used to it. So it's very interesting. Like, and the dynamic, like you saw Sarah being really friendly with Moore and like laughing and giggling. And then when she's with Chrysler, she's like pretty like looking at him like he's just like this vile, like terrible like,
Right.
person.
she's
but she's
toying with
still
him.
toying with
Oh,
him.
yeah.
Oh,
And
yes.
she's getting back
I
at
love
him
it.
for like
I love
the,
every bit of it.
yeah,
Right.
the last episode. So
Right.
it's
Like she knows what they're most attracted to. I mean, there's power in being a woman. I mean,
For
let's
sure.
let's be real. But it's like
And
she
we saw
knows
that
what
power
attracts her. Oh,
today.
definitely. And I think in a more comfortable, like she was owning it and not really not really ashamed of it. Like not really being ashamed of, oh, I'm the only she wasn't timid whatsoever. So she was kind of enjoying it, like, oh, I do.
Yeah,
have
she's
this
like, you're
power
gonna
thing."
toy with me? Fine, I'm gonna toy right back.
do you think the competition, because I don't know how much these guys know right now that they're in competition. We do get a sense of it. Maybe it was the last episode
Definitely
or the
the
episode
last
before
episode.
that. Yeah, the one where Sarah's out with Chrysler and then Moore takes Mary out on a
right.
date. So they have a sense of their competition, but here now we're like, these guys are really in competition. They might not even know
Know
how
it.
much, and it worries me that it's gonna like mess up the Scooby investigation.
Or explode.
Oh, yeah,
like
or
what really
explode.
happens
So
when it
much
explodes.
tension.
Yeah.
Man.
Do you think that Moore is gonna do a real proposal to Sarah?
He was a little vulnerable. He kind of liked her answer. He was like, wait,
I know,
what?
he's like,
You
wait,
would
That
say
gave
yes?
him hope.
Oh my gosh. You would say yes? Oh yeah, all day.
Oh, absolutely.
But
You know what I wrote in my notes? I said, this is like, even though we've seen some firsts for those two characters, I really feel like this was really the beginning because she, in a sense, entertained him. I said, she found him handsome.
Right.
So that compliment, I feel like that's like, okay, well, maybe she might like me. You know, she called him handsome, which I think to a lot of guys is a big deal.
It is just weird to me because I don't remember how Moore is described in the books, but obviously it's like here Moore is like a very handsome movie star. So you're like, I don't understand like why you don't understand that you're handsome.
He knows.
And it's almost like he thinks he has no game with Sarah, and I'm like, come on. You got to think
Like
you have like a
lost it.
little bit of it, you
Either
know?
that or he's just like still so like downtrodden from his ex-fiance, like
that's
cheating
a good
on
point.
him.
That's
maybe.
a good point. And his grandma is kind of overbearing.
She's an interesting woman.
I love her. I love her,
Yeah.
but you can tell where she is like stressing him out.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, for sure.
Our girl Madeline's back this week. Thanks
What's
for
up?
joining
Hi,
us.
Madeline.
Hey, girl. So Madeline says, she loves to tease him. Mary, on the other hand, is furious with him. I agree. Dr. Chrysler better watch his back, or Barry's gonna come for him with those
Right.
knives. He keeps flirting with our Sarah.
With others.
So we got a lot of insight into Teddy Roosevelt in this episode.
Yes.
I almost wanted to write on our board, poor Teddy Roosevelt, because I just felt so bad for him. I see where he feels like he's trying to make a name for himself, and he feels probably like he's lost control of the department because he's a young guy and he's trying to gain that control. And so he probably feels, okay, I need to do something. Like, I need to move on this. Which is not really what you want to do. Like, you don't want to rush into anything. And now we have this, like, who is or isn't the murderer. Like, Chrysler says it's not Willem, but a lot of the clues point to it being Willem. And then we have this conflict with Connor, where Connor, in the end, takes him to the wrong
was
building
such a
and
great
fires
scene.
him. Yeah.
First of all, it's definitely Willem. Okay,
for sure.
It has
We know
to
that
be.
now.
It has to
See,
be.
I don't think it's Willem.
The
Isn't
way
that
that
weird?
okay, so the way let's address this. Let's address how when the mother walked in and she had the boy taken by was that the father?
No,
Who was that
it
guy?
does look like
Butler,
the
helper,
Butler.
man.
Well, the
Because
way
this
that-
guy also served them whenever they were eating.
Yeah.
At one point in time, so he was like the rough butler. I know.
Yeah, well,
Rough Butler, the maybe Butler.
Right.
so it's like, okay, well, what is that about? Like, the mother knows something's
yeah.
going on. She
Yeah.
knows that he's having these relations with these young boys. So what if it's the mother?
Right.
What if maybe the mother doesn't approve of his habits, and she's going in and she's killing these boys?
And they did mention whenever the mayor and Teddy Roosevelt were talking. First of all, I love what Teddy Roosevelt did. I love him in this episode.
Yes.
You're so
Yeah.
passionate about him right now.
I am so passionate about him.
Yes.
Because I am so proud of him. But whenever he and the mayor were talking, the mayor said, let the family handle it. Well, how the heck is the family handling it? Are they killing the boys? Like,
Yeah.
you bringing up
What
that
if the
point.
mother is cleaning up his mess?
Messes.
Yes.
Because technically, if she's Catholic, then she doesn't necessarily approve of his habits or the things that he's doing, and it's probably it's against the Catholic Church.
Right.
Or maybe it's his father, because we really don't hear much from the father. Even in the
that's
conversations
true,
that are
too.
being had, the mother is typically the one that's leading the conversations.
And she's the cleaner-upper, so to speak, because we know that when Dr. Chrysler was talking to the bishop, he mentioned that he went to Switzerland. Was I the only one that heard that? He
Was it the young man that he went to? They sent him.
Yeah,
away?
they sent him away.
Right, they sent him away. So it kind of, because we don't know exactly who that person was, like what they were talking about there. So
I felt like that was Willem. Like Willem.
yeah.
That was
It was
Willem.
a-
Because he said Mrs. Van Bergen. That's how he found out it was William.
right. So she.
I just had a moment.
What was your moment?
Okay,
because
so-
I see your gears turning.
I went into, like Raven Simone when she goes somewhere. And that's so Raven. I had one of those.
She came back.
That's so cute.
Okay, if we think back to the temper tantrum that Willem had,
With the
it
mom?
was clear to me that he's had that kind of you guys know what I'm
Temper
saying.
tantrum.
He's done that before because she's done that before.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
But see, what if, because, like, so we have this scene where Willem is pouring something into the kids' drink to, like, make them more pliable, basically.
Right.
But what if what if Willem is a red herring and what if like every time he's doing these things, the mom just comes in and like gets rid of the guy, but not in like a murderous way, but just
so
like
he doesn't like tell anyone or.
No, I feel like Willem might not be like, to me, because all of these clues are leading to Willem. I feel like it might not actually be Willem, because in my heart of hearts, I feel like because I trust Chrysler the most. I don't know why, but I trust Chrysler the most out of everyone. And Chrysler says, like, I don't think it's an absent mother. Like, I don't think that this is like his problem. It was an absent mother, or not an absent mother, a too strong, overbearing like mother. And he also says, I think he actually does come from a poor immigrant background. And so I feel, for me, my instinct is to trust Chrysler. So my instinct is to say it's not Willem, even though like literally all the clues say otherwise.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I have to respectfully
disagree.
Only because he keeps saying out loud he doesn't know it all, and all of the clues are just so aligned with, and the only moment that he said, oh, well, he's not our suspect, I feel like it's because Teddy Roosevelt was saying, he almost was like kind of shunning him out, like, oh, well, he's not our suspect then, Teddy. Go ahead and turn the other way. I don't know. I'm feeling like we know that it's him. So.
Or maybe there's a sibling that we don't know of, or
Worm's younger, creepier brother.
Right. He's like hiding in a chamber somewhere.
I don't know. Or the hashtag bodyguard Butler. I don't know.
Hashtag bodyguard Butler. That actually is a good possibility, because the butler could be an immigrant. The butler could have learned how to write because the family paid for his education.
Yeah. And he would think that like these kids that are like with Willem are disgusting. Or saucy boys.
And he looks like he could have some athleticism to him, because he has to be somebody that's a climber. So I thought about the dad for a second, then I was thinking, well, maybe it's not the dad, because I don't picture the dad climbing up any buildings.
I also don't think think it's an immigrant, because in the note they say dirty immigrants. So that would lead me to believe that it's not an immigrant, unless
it's
like a
shame
total...
for yourself, or shame, or like anger at a different type of immigrant.
No,
because
dirty ash.
Yes. Yeah,
the ash and dirt on their faces.
Oh right,
maybe that's a distraction,
because they're sinners.
Right. Yeah. The Ash Wednesday. Because he also said dirty immigrants. Well, that church that we saw was, Dr. Chrysler said, was mainly for poor immigrants that went to that church, and he almost was like, oh, I'm saving them from this. And obviously we got a lot of ties with this having to do mainly with some type of religious background or religious motive as to how he's guiding all of these killers too. We got that. So.
And saucy boys could mean that they're drugged or that they're drunk.
Saucy,
maybe.
Yeah. Saucy.
Saucy drunk.
Now that we're really delving into these words.
I know.
And speaking of delving into, the live chat is going wild right now. So we want to thank everybody that is tuned in and everybody that's typing their opinions. Nobody in the chat seems to think that it's Willem. Nobody. They're all like, no,
Thank
it
you,
can't
chat
be him.
roll.
He seems too weak. He doesn't look like the kind of guy to scale buildings. Like, everybody's going in. They're like, no, can't be him.
Really?
Nobody believes it. So thanks, guys.
Well, there you go. I don't know. Team of investigators.
Can we jump on Fan of a Week real quick while we're talking with live chat?
See, these fans know more. I feel like they can guess all of this.
So last week, one of my favorite comments was from Erin Chassereau. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, so I'm sorry if I butchered it. But she brought up two really cool points, and one of them was about an old serial killer that actually, real historical serial killer, and his name was Albert Fish, and he was an American serial killer known. He had like a bunch of names: Werewolf of Wisteria, Brooklyn Vampire, the Gray Man. But his killings that he did in New York were very similar to the ones in this series. So, and he actually left a note for a mother of one of the victims and had it delivered, and it had a lot of the same dialogue that we saw in the note. And I actually have some of the letter right here, but he said, that several times a day he would spank the children and torture them to make their meat good and tender. And then he would chop them up and boil them with peppers and onions, just like they said last week, roasted
like
in the oven. He said in one of the letters, it took me 9 days to eat her entire body, and that he did not sleep with her, so she died a virgin, which was very similar.
Yeah.
And then one of the other things that was really interesting about this serial killer is that one of the aliases that he used was Mr. Howard. And I was like, ooh,
like
Sarah
Sarah
Howard.
Howard.
I was like, interesting. So if any of you are more interested in that, Albert Fish, look him up. I think there's a movie they made him about him as well a couple years back. So a lot of similarities. And he also had like homosexual relationships beginning at age 12. He became a male prostitute.
Interesting.
A lot of interesting stuff. So
Thank you for that, Erin.
Thanks.
That's such a
great.
good point. Yeah, I was trying back and forth with her. I was like, no, keep it coming. Like, keep the details. Because she's like, sorry. I'm like, no, sorry. Keep it going. Thank you so much.
My next
so thank you to our fan of the week for that.
Well,
Yes, thank you, fan of the week. My next question is, what happens? So we have like Teddy Roosevelt being super triumphant and awesome in this episode, but what happens? Like the whole time I was watching this sequence in the end, what happens if he's wrong? So what happens if he stakes his job, which is this what he's doing? He's staking his job on assuming that Willem is the murderer. What happens to him, and what happens to his job, and what happens to his reputation if it's not?
I don't think he's, you know what, not even sometimes. When you stand up for something that's right, it's not always the popular.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very common. And I don't think that he is saying, Willem's a killer, Willem's a killer. He just wants the opportunity to try to find the right guy. I mean, like, he got upset about Captain Connor giving him the wrong address. And he said, hey, I have a suspect. He wants to try that suspect. It's not that he's, like, gunning for I don't think we've gotten to that point, so to speak. He's just, I think, tired of him being protected. But you know what? If he loses his job, obviously we know he goes to, do bigger things. But if he loses
his job, he becomes president.
Right.
Good job, Teddy Roosevelt.
If he loses his job, so what? Because it's one of those things where, what are you going to do? Keep your job and do something that's not right? I mean, isn't that what we're all supposed to strive to do in the first place? To not shut up
that's true.
means of our jobs.
And I'm so, like, I feel a sense of fear for his life for some reason.
Yes.
I just feel like,
yes.
especially the captain, now that his badge has been taken, I'm like, please don't hurt my Teddy.
Yeah.
I agree with y'all. I love his character, but I feel like he's got so many enemies.
He's got the mayor
and I
gunning
feel
for
like he's
him.
by himself. Like, he has no support except for the alienists and Sarah. but
Barely, because
he's out there by
buttonheads.
himself.
Yeah.
Well,
that is
Sarah's a
super-
good shot, so.
I love
Right.
Sarah.
Yeah,
She
that's
protects
true.
us. Sarah's great.
She's a whiskey drinking shot.
Right. And just for a little funny. In the chat, they seem to know who the killer is, and this is just funny. They said the killer is a man on fire with a silver smile. You guys ready? Drum roll. Denzel Washington. That's Man on Fire.
Oh my god.
That's from Noja York.
Nice.
And everybody in the chat is laughing. Sorry guys, it's just
What
a
was
funny
that movie
moment.
where Denzel Washington got like possessed by the devil in the end? I forget what it was.
Time. Something. Oh no, that's the song.
It's the song. The time is on my side. I can't
Oh,
sing.
my mother
sorry.
would.
Sorry for
Fallen?
your ears. Fallen.
Fallen.
That's it. Yeah. If you guys,
my mother would kill me right now if I didn't know that Denzel movie. Sorry, Mom.
that was a random detour about good
Sorry,
Denzel
guys.
Washington movies.
Sorry guys.
Squirrel.
So Alice, getting back to this, you also said you had information on the gloves because we
Yes.
had that one scene with the killer, or maybe it's Willem. Like I don't know, putting on the gloves with
And the lotion.
Yeah,
with
I
the
think
mayonnaise inside.
I think both of us looked up a little bit about gloves and just their historical importance at this time. But there's a whole like list of rules that go along with glove wearing in the 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s. Like you cannot shake the hand of an ungloved person if you are wearing gloves. It signifies as rude. So like when we were both like, oh, when he shook hands with the bishop, he was wearing gloves, the bishop was not. Technically, that would be a very rude thing to do if you knew, like you're supposed to wear gloves when you go out of your house if you're in public. But if you know you're going to be shaking someone's hand, you're supposed to remove your right glove so that you can shake hands. So there is just like a lot of like interesting nuances. And then like, let's see, I wrote down indoors, a gentleman cannot offer a lady his gloved hand. Men were advised that when going places, they have to take the hand off the right hand. Let's see.
I think in one was keeping anything touching a prized possession is gloves on, depending on what type of possession. So that raised a flag with me, kind of, jumping to the last episode. I know we're talking about this one, but prized possession, does Willem, whomever, does the killer see the boys as his possession because he put on the gloves before he...
Well, and the other thing with that also is that you just reminded me of something, is that one of the other things that I read was that the only time you are supposed to wear gloves, if in like a situation where you're normally not supposed to, is if you have some sort of like disfigurement to your hand or something. So obviously, like, the lotion with the gloves, like, makes your hands softer. So if you are a high society or something like that, you would want to make sure that your hands are always looking good so that you could be doing the correct, like, glove etiquette. So,
you know what I thought about
maybe
when I
something
saw
with
the
that,
gloves?
too.
I thought, well, since he is watching them, he's watching the aliens, maybe he's trying to conceal his... his identity, with the fingerprints. That's the first thing I thought about, like, okay, cool. But that also makes sense what you're saying, too. But if he's watching them, then he knows that they are trying to find out whose fingerprint that belongs to. And then I feel like when you said disfigurement, I thought about the last fingerprint. I don't know if you guys looked closely at it, but it looked like there was, like, I don't know, like a cut or a scarring or something on that fingerprint. Like,
well,
it wasn't...
Because we didn't see really what was wrong with his hands when he put them in the gloves. We just saw, obviously, that he's trying to either heal some scars or, like, he's got really bad dry skin or, like, we don't know because we didn't see. But obviously, you wouldn't be doing that unless there was a reason.
Yeah, we saw a little bit. They looked like we saw a little bit. They were like scabs or ulcers.
Could that be from
like
syphilis?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that would, I guess that would, be
The
our
reason why.
answer as to why the fingerprint could be.
But then Willem doesn't look like he has any, like, lesions on
his hands.
So that threw me off too. I was like, wait,
there's
there's
your
different people.
Your other killer.
Well, you know what? It's interesting too because when I think about immigrants, I think about them being the ones that are diseased. For some reason, maybe they might be in the lower class and they're not able to pay for it. They can't afford it. So when I think about syphilis, I don't know. That to me is like, okay, maybe it is an immigrant. I don't know. That's in my mind.
But we
right
know
now.
that
Willem
Willem
has
probably
syphilis.
has syphilis because of the teeth.
Right.
He has the silver teeth.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting.
Right. And then
All
when
this
his
good
mom was
stuff.
going to kiss him on the lips,
Interesting.
I was like, ooh, girl, that's gross. Look at those teeth.
So, any last thoughts? I mean, we know the killer's gonna kill in a few days on a holy day, so that's our anticipation for the next episode. Like, having them, are they gonna help prevent this? Because it's episode 6, probably not. But that's the drive to see if they can get the killer before he strikes again.
I'll say this: if that young man that they took away ends up dead, which I don't think he will, but if he does, then we know that it was either the mother or the butler.
The bodyguard.
Somebody,
The bodyguard butler.
Bodyguard Butler.
Hashtag bodyguard butler. Yeah, for sure.
Or maybe someone in the police force.
Someone in the chat roll asked, does anyone else suspect the mobster who drugged John? But he doesn't
because
have...
the pills.
Yeah, he
'cause
doesn't
it
have
was the
silver
same-
teeth, though. I think he's just a shady mofo.
Maybe that's
Maybe.
how they maintain control.
Yeah.
Well, I think the mobster definitely maybe that drug is really common to get because obviously, like, in Paris's Hall, they're using the powder to drug
Right.
people, and then obviously Willem also has the same stuff. So I don't know if there's any correlation there with a relationship, but yeah, maybe
Maybe
we'll
he's
find
stealing
out
it
on the
from
next
Paris's
episode.
Hall. I don't know. That's a really good point.
My only last thought was that I was mad that John Moore did not pay the little boy, or did not seem to pay the little boy when he
right.
ran off. I was like, you're putting on this big show where you're like, I am giving this man an honest job. And then you're like, just kidding.
Look here,
Right.
when you have a chance with Sarah that you didn't think you had, you go at all costs. I'm sure he went back to maybe, protect
Hopefully
the
he did.
But
You know what? I have a feeling he did not. Oh my God.
Right?
That cheap John.
Right?
John being cheap again.
In the love triangle, I'm also rooting for Chrysler. Just saying.
I'm not. I'm
over
rooting
He
for
probably
Chrysler.
pays his shoe boys. That's all I'm saying.
You know what? He can afford it. He can afford it. He's rich.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, I'm excited for the next episode because I think we might see more love triangle. We might see some more Sarah toying with people. I don't know. I'm interested to see what's going to happen.
And hopefully we'll get more clues.
Yeah, for sure. I was honestly kind of upset. You know that moment when you are looking for a killer, you're looking, and then when you seem to have saw a face on the last episode, I was almost like, oh man, is that gonna take like the fun out of it all, the hunt out of it all? But this episode did not disappoint, so I am super excited about that.
I was worried about that too, because when you have someone where you're like, okay, this guy has the silver teeth, he's picking up boys, like this must be the killer, and we've already set up like this Willem storyline. But I think there's been enough doubt thrown in that it doesn't have to be like
doesn't have to be Willem.
And one more thing, just to add to this, Madeline, she's always a rock star. I want to say this. She always brings up such great points. She says he feeds the organs to the cat. So one thing I was thinking, well, maybe we should kind of look out for a cat.
Yeah, someone who's a cat.
So that's definitely a detail that we don't want to miss. And looking for this killer.
And the killer seems to live, like, when we've seen the images of his house, he seems to live in, like, some kind of, like, log cabin-y looking place.
Right.
And then Willem lives in, like, mansion place.
We saw his pad. His pad was nice.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Right.
Yeah. But a cat, that is a really good point. Now I'm going to be looking for a cat. Kind of like the mole on the guy's lip.
Right.
I mean, Willem didn't have a mole, by the way. I was like, well, he had a little mark. He did have a little mark. But, yeah, hashtag it means something, cat.
Well, thank you guys for joining us today. Tune in next week. I'm 123 Jackie B. You can find me at 123 Jackie B on all platforms except for Snapchat, where I'm Jackie B 123.
Yes, guys, and thank you for joining us. Like always, it is Miss Candi Marie, and you can find me on Instagram at Miss Candi Marie and on Twitter at Sweet Candor TV.
And don't forget, guys, to enter our contest at
we will tweet the link
so that we can get you guys some books to our winners. And I'm Alice Ford. You can find me on Twitter at Alice L. Ford or on Instagram at Alice's Adventures on Earth.
Yes, we are looking forward to the book giveaway next week. But I am Takira Williams. Thank you so much for tuning in. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Takira_Williams. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
From executive producers Maria
Views expressed herein are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.